commissioners a few minutes.
I move that the minutes of September 16th, 2021 be approved, subject to correction.
Thank you, Commissioner Bergalio. May I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Santos. Any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes. The approval of September 16, 2021 regular COTC meeting minutes. Thank you. Okay, next up, we would do our the monthly null and void lease updates, and then we'll spend some time on the SOP for the null and voids. So in your packets, I believe we have the two options that was presented to us. So let's go through the updates first, and then we'll get to that second one. Okay, Ms. Lydia.
Yes, sir.
All right, could you give us our monthly updates for the null and voids, please?
Okay, so the numbers still haven't changed since the last board meeting. We still had 23 adjudicated with 81 pending, a total of 104 cases that in total in the null and void cases. Now, I haven't had a chance to do any of the ones that are at the application stage, simply because I've been concentrating on null and void cases, hoping to change the numbers by the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that, commissioners? Okay,
For now.
awesome. Thank you, Ms. Lydia.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate your diligence on that. Okay, next up is our opportunity to basically create an SOP for us to be able to start rectifying or rectify and mask the null and voids. So we have two options or two scenarios, I guess, that is presented to us. And I'll just kind of give us a few minutes just to give you some time, plus formulating any questions that you have.
You said there are two, Mr. Chair?
Yes, so there's the one that's part one, and then the second one is the kind of the email drafted
Oh,
version.
okay, okay.
Yeah. The one from the second top.
Got it.
Okay. If commissioners, you don't mind, I actually prepared a couple of
Okay, great.
clarifying
Yeah,
questions
please,
to begin with.
Please.
Okay, so the one that was prepared, I guess Joey and team, my first question, just more maybe for clarification. 1.1 C, this section talks about, if there is a lease already in place, correct? Okay, Joey went back to his desk, we'll give him a sec. Okay, Joey's actually joining us in the room.
Oh, it's kind of weird then.
Okay. No worries, no worries. So Joey, just a clarifying question. So as it reads, right, the section 1.1 is on the leases. For clarity, what I was trying to understand was, the recommendation or the recommended action is to terminate the lease. And then if there is a loan guarantee to grant the right of entry to the lessee?
If there's a residential dwelling on the property, whether it's through a loan guarantee or through their personal resources.
Okay, but so if we're terminating the lease, and we're just in essence, we're just granting a right of entry?
Right of entry with conditions.
With
that we
conditions.
Set forth, whether it's through a loan guarantee, they would have to comply with their monthly payments, things of that nature.
Okay. So they won't have a lease to be on this land, in essence,
No,
just a right of entry. So what happens, so how do we then there's still an open item on this, again, for this scenario, how do we deal with it to close it out in that sense? Or do we?
we will close it out when their date and time is, when we come up to a date and time to issue a lease.
Okay, and then when that comes up, whether or not we issue them a lease on this property, or is it we're gonna transfer and move them out to,
It would be on the property. they're
On this
currently
particular property.
residing.
okay. So because I was a little confused in that, should we make sure to expand the language if in case this is the one that, the commissioners adopt, obviously before we adopt it, to expand that language, just so that there's clarity? Or is it there and I just missed it, sorry?
The proposed actions would be to terminate the lease, revert that application date and time back to the original applicant. If in the event that the constituent only paid for a survey without constructing a home, then they would be reimbursed for their survey costs. If in the event that there is a home constructed, whether it's through the loan guarantee program or through their personal resources, they won't avail the survey refund.
Right.
But they will be granted a right of entry.
Okay.
Uh,
So then I think to kind of bridge that gap is, upon their, getting them to upon their next in line or date and time, then that's when a lease will be issued. I think that's kind of where the gap is, when I was reading through it, from a chronology, or, here's the next step.
We can add that.
Okay,
It was just in our SOP that it's already there that once the date and time is, but we can include that verbiage just so there's clarification.
yeah, just so that, okay, because, or you do, please reference X, right, okay. And then from the application standpoint, I think this is fine. And so when you revert it to the applicant's date and time of the original applicant, right, which is clarified here, then they would be addressed at that point as well. Okay. Okay. And then, so Attorney Toff, just from a clarifying point here, these are proposed additions to the existing, right?
That's correct.
Hence the 5C, 5.3C, 5. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
All right.
Do you want me to kind of go over them and the reasoning behind them? Would
Yeah,
that help?
so I was gonna say, would you,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, so the proposed addition of 5.3C is to basically spell out and to kind of standardize the issue of switching application types. So it's been done kind of haphazardly throughout the years and without kind of like a real solid guidance and without, and I think this board has kind of made it clear that what it values more than anything else is transparency. So this would bring the process to be brought in front of the board, and the board has the ability to kind of look at such a request and decide in its absolute discretion whether or not to grant the transfer of the type of application. The second one is the issue of designating a successor to an application. So in the past, we've had issues because the existing designation statute for a application is different from the designation of a successor to a lease under section 9.1. The 9.1 designation of a successor is a little bit more broad, and 5.8 is kind of narrow in a weird way. It has certain relatives, not other relatives, not ones that you would think should be on there. So this kind of expands it to bring it in line with section 9.1's, yeah, sorry, I'm should have brought the thinner mask, sorry. To bring it in line with section 9.1's coverage of relatives that are qualified relatives, and also in line with the previous board's standard operating procedure. Back in, I think it was 2017 or 2018, the previous board had decided to interpret 5.8 to encompass the same relative coverage as 9.1 had. But that's obviously not spelled out, and so this is trying to kind of clean up the gaps that are in the law, and also to, making it in front of the board, again, standardizing it and publicizing it, making it transparent. The third one, 5.8C. So this is what I think should hopefully clear up a lot of the null and void list. So this is that the board can, if it refines that an emergency exists that makes a transfer switch imperative, can allow for an applicant to transfer switch their application date and times to a qualified applicant within the third degree of consanguinity under the Act. So again, this is to make it very transparent as to what we're doing, and it also ups the standard of what should be considered for a switch. So it's not going to be handed out to everybody who requests for it. It has to have good cause shown. So a lot of what we had with the null and void list, it wasn't, it was one of those things that it wasn't exactly spelled out in the rules as to the full powers of the board. A lot of the previous directors just kind of assumed that was something that should have been in there, because there are so many other ways to have the same thing happen. If the original applicant gets a lease, after 7 years, they can transfer it. Right. And if an emergency exists that they need to transfer it sooner, they can do so. So it's essentially doing the same thing as that, but just kind of with, it's aimed at this null and void list to try and clear it out, to bring these issues in front of the board, in front of the public, announce exactly what we're looking at, and make a decision on a case-by-case basis. 6.4C is, again, this is a kind of standardizing, publicizing. The existing rule on 6.4 is that the board does not have the power to evict people who are qualified applicants who are residing on CHamoru Land Trust property from prior to 1995. Okay. We have been issuing leases to these people because, again, there's, if we can't evict them, we figured, let's at least provide them the ability to get utilities and get tax money out of the deal and make it official. So this spells that out. This, again, makes it transparent. The 9.1C proposed addition is something that we've seen kind of pop up recently. There were a lot of times when the commission allowed a lessee to designate more than one successor to the lease. And this creates problems when, if the lessee passes away and there's two successors on the lease, which one of them gets it? And there were no rules, no standards as to how that should be decided. So this just spells out that the commission gets to hear from both sides and make a decision in its absolute discretion, so that there's no confusion as to what's going on or how it's being decided.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm going to just kind of turn to Joey real quick. So, from an operations standpoint, right? Again, given what we know with the current list of 104, I believe, right, with the null and voids. where this gives us some of the clarity or in addition to what we can do as a commission. On this side, the other proposal kind of gives the, here's what to do, right? Versus the board making a decision, and options of making that decision. So, again, when I was reading through this, it's like, it wasn't necessarily, this is more just additions to the SOP of what the board is going to be able to do within our, within our limits. But also giving us additional or more scope, right, to be able to manage those 104. Is it, so if, again, for the commissioners, just kind of going through this, will we, if we adopt these proposals or these additions to the to the existing, we're gonna have to come up with procedures, right? So if this is the scenario, and there's a lease, and then if this is a scenario, and if there's no lease, right, whatever the board decides, we're still gonna have to handle it in a certain way, correct?
I believe for as long as, Attorney Top has been, it's very descriptive of what the board, or additional authority for the board. I think the main thing would be to define what the emergency is gonna be.
Right.
That's the confusion, not really confusion, but that's the question that has been arising a lot. And whether the emergency applies to the lessee or to the beneficiary who the transfer will go to. But as far as creating additional procedures, everything that he's listed, we can factor it into our SOP.
Okay.
There will be no need to, we'll just go off of what he had, or, proposed, the changes he had proposed.
Right.
But nonetheless, we're still gonna have to go through the AAA process. Some of the proposed additional authority, we may have opposition to it. And then we bring that back and the board will meet and decide whether it has any relevance or any weight to change the proposed, or additional authority proposed. But we've already started planning in the event the board should adopt the proposal by Assistant Attorney General Tom. We've been planning out already when the public hearing would be to meet the open government law and the AAA process. So we've already got ahead of it and we're planning.
And I get to address your point on 5.8C, the emergency. That's just the standard that I pulled, just kind of based off of the feeling I got from the board as far as what it wanted. That's adjustable, so that can be, there's different levels of standards. It could be good cause shown, it could be absolute discretion of the board, just hearing all the facts of the case. So that language is modifiable based on how this board wants to treat those types of applications.
Right, right. Or ones that we deem, or they come before us as an emergency, for example.
Right, so, yeah, there's within the existing set of rules, there's about 3 or 4 different kind of standards of review. There's emergency exists, so that's for transfer of leases in under 7 years. There's just good cause shown is for, I forget which one of the other ones, but
Yeah,
they're in there that, so it's up to the board as to how it wishes, or what kind of level of urgency should apply to these types of transfers.
And it's gonna be, definitely at the, as the research comes through, right, or whatever the circumstance is, right? Is that,
Yeah, and so we have, the existing null and void list that this would apply to most, if not all of those. But again, the board should also, in making its decision, look to how this would affect possible applications for transfer switch in the future as well,
Yeah.
and how it wishes to consider those.
Exactly. I was wanting to make sure that, we're very deliberate that it's scalable for the future, right? For
Yeah.
anything that comes up in the future. Hence, kind of why I was like, if we adopt these, right, or we at least begin the process saying, hey, yes, this is what we want, I want to make sure that there is a procedure on how to manage it, right?
Right.
With the different scenarios, with a lease, without a lease, et cetera, right? So, because we're gonna want to make sure that so I'll use Ms. Lydia, who's managing this, knows exactly how to manage it. If the board decides on X, and so here's how we're gonna.
Well, so these would be all without a lease.
Okay.
So these are all pre-lease, because if they have a lease, then that comes into that 7 years, and underneath 7 years if an emergency exists.
Okay,
So that one's
Got it,
already
got it.
covered.
okay,
This is just pre-lease. And again, like you said, we're looking at the future because so many of the rules were written just kind of with a 5-10 year time frame in mind, and didn't really consider what would happen if, 30 years pass and the original applicants are now past their ability to possibly farm an agricultural lease or things like that, so.
okay. Okay, makes sense. Commissioners, I'll yield to you now, thank you.
No, I have no questions.
No questions? Commissioner Bernardo?
So, how does your rules and Mr. Joey's suggestion on part one and part two? It
So,
covers it?
how do they intersect?
Yeah.
So his recommendations, the termination of lease has basically already happened. That was the AG opinion that said these are null and void, the lease does not exist. It's a matter of how you move on from here. So without the proposed additions of the rules, it's kind of like a lot of what we have with the landowners who have been preoccupiers. A lot of them don't have leases, they're just on the land. It's very difficult for them to get utilities or any sort of, it's 10 times as difficult to sort of do anything with the land. And a lot of them are not paying taxes and things like that. And to me, it's kind of a distinction without a difference in that, they're there, that land is not gonna be used for other potential applicants. So why not make it official as long as we can have a public hearing on it and, make it transparent? Again, I understand this board has been extremely sensitive to the transparency issue. And so this brings all of them in front of the board. So, and not, nothing behind closed doors at all. Everything's done in a public hearing. And it makes it official, makes it public, makes it standardized. So that there's no perception of favoritism. Everything is out in the open, in the minutes, out there for everyone to see. Without the rules, if we go with Mr. Cruz's proposal for the reversion to the original applicant and the right of entry, they have a right of entry until their lease comes up, but for a lot of people, that's gonna be, again, 20, 30 years' time. There have been people who've been sitting on the list since December of 1995 who don't have leases yet, and so for someone who has a transfer because they applied in 1999 instead of 1995, they could be waiting another couple decades for their actual lease to come up, and the amount of hoops that they have to jump through in the meantime. They're going to be on the land, they're going to be in the house that they built, but it's just going to be a stupid amount of red tape for them. So this, my proposed rule addition basically makes it public and allows the land trust to kind of move on to the more critical issues, because I think we're stumbling over this null and void thing, sort of meeting after meeting, week after week, trying to come up with sort of duct tape solutions for people, because we don't want to kick them out on the street. If they've built a house, we don't want to boot them out and say, sorry, we screwed up, but bye. We have a lot more compassion than that, and so I think this allows us to kind of announce what we're doing and make the process transparent and make it so that the other government agencies can do what they do as well, without too much hassle.
Now, the previous standard operating procedures back in 2020, 21, doesn't have these proposed rules annexed.
Right.
Sorry.
Yes, no, I definitely appreciate your help on this, Attorney Toff. And of course, Joey, right, with the proposals. I think it'll do us good to also put some procedures that's tied to this, right? Just to make sure that we don't miss anything, right?
Mhm.
Well, this solves the problem of all those cases that are.
That's the hope, yeah.
Go for it.
So, before, I just want to make it very clear, before we make a vote, right? What's the process after the commission decides on these, or makes a decision on either proposal? What's the next steps, just so we're clear?
What we'll do is we'll take the proposed additional authority presented by Attorney Tom, we'll put it in the format of how the proposed changes to comply with the settlement agreement. We'll bring it back for the board to review one more time to agree. Then we will plan when it will be published and all that other great stuff to comply with the open government law and the AAA process.
Okay, so at least we'll have a period of time for us to still make sure to vet that everything ticketize, and then it still needs to go through the AAA process anyway.
Once it's published already, there will be no more changes could be made to the proposed additional authority, because we have to keep in the office a certain amount of copies for anybody who wants to come in to review them.
Correct. Once it's published, right?
Once we publish.
Right, okay. Okay, I just want to do a quick verification on those that are on the Zoom. Can everyone still hear us okay? All right, so just make sure commissioners and Mr. Cruz to speak directly into the mic so that everyone can.
Sir, if I may add, if the board should choose with the proposed additional authority, we are going to put a halt to any other corrective actions for the null and void that are still pending. It wouldn't make sense for us to try to adjudicate it now and then there's changes and we have to circle back to make another change because it's not in line with the additional authority that was granted.
Yeah, we should. I mean, I agree. Everything should be put to a halt until everything's finalized, and then we'll deal with it as they come. Right, okay. Commissioner Santos, any questions?
Nothing, I'm impressed. This is a long road for, everybody working here is on this. So, to have everything at this point is just, it feels good, you know? There's movement, and it's showing.
I just have one question,
Mhm.
because we have today to review the null and voids.
Mhm.
Can we go ahead and adopt this proposed rules and regulations so that we can act on it?
So the ones that are on for today, I don't believe would fall within the ambit of the fixes that are the proposed additions. They're dealt with under different parts of the rules and regs, or potentially solved by application of other parts of the rules and regs. So today's cases would not be affected by these proposed rules.
Okay.
Good question, yeah. Okay, awesome, thank you. Joy, anything else?
Just one thing, Attorney Tom had mentioned that all the proposed additional authority would address applications. So when we go in to adjudicate the leases, nonetheless, we're gonna have to terminate it. Is that correct?
Well, so the existing leases were already declared null and void, the ones that were,
Have been exist.
yeah, that existed subsequent to an unauthorized transfer.
Okay. So what we'll do then is we'll get a jump start on preparing all the terminations, because a lot of them have been recorded. So for abstracting purposes, whether it be, and also for the assessment of real property taxes, DRT is gonna still see them as that individual has a lease on that property. So we'll go in, or we'll prepare a termination of lease so that it will remove that lessee from that property. Is that?
Well, so there's two ways to go about it. One would be to hold off on the termination until such time as the new rules would be adopted, and then do kind of a a near simultaneous termination of new lease, approval of new lease sort of thing, so that they're not kicked off the land in the meantime. The other potential is that we do the termination and then do a right of entry from between now and the time that the rules are passed.
So we'll just forward an inquiry to you, and we'll present the possible two actions that you have mentioned. Because right now, if I'm not mistaken, there may be a couple that are still on our lease listing,
Mhm.
because there was no action taken to officially terminate the lease. And given that the AG has already issued her opinion, there still needs to be action, I guess, taken from the board to terminate. That's my understanding. Because not everybody, if I'm not mistaken, not everybody has been removed from the lease listing, just
Yeah.
based on the legal opinion.
Right.
So nonetheless, we're still gonna have to go in and terminate it if it was recorded, because in the eyes of land management, they're still the lessee to that specific piece of property.
Because we haven't filed the termination yet.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So then they'll continue to be assessed taxes, and then they're gonna come to us and they're gonna request that for reimbursement because they paid the taxes for 2021 and so forth.
What we could do is give the lessee the option and say, here's what the plan is. The plan is to submit a proposed rule and reg change to the legislature that would allow for transfers in these types of circumstances. Your lease is currently void. You have the option of continuing to pay taxes and have it, when the rules and regs, if they're passed, to then seek a new lease, or to just have a right of entry for now and see what happens with the passage of the rules and regs. Basically give them notice that this is what we're doing, and let them make the choice of what they want to do, so that they're informed and that they're not taken by surprise, and they're not going to come in saying, I don't want to pay a tax bill because I didn't know anything about this.
Okay. We'll run our draft letter
Yes.
to you. So
Okay.
So just to be clear, because this 104, I
Mm.
mean, when, to Joey's point, the leases haven't been terminated, but in essence, they're terminated, because they're part of that.
They're void.
They're
yeah.
void, right, yeah, okay. Okay, just want to make it clear, I just want to make sure I'm clear with that, okay.
And what about the 23 cases
That
that
would
was
be,
done?
So the ones that were done were not, were done under different rule sections other than an official transfer of, or switch of an application date. Some of them were found to be, or some of them, the original applicant came back in and retook the possession, and the person who was the transferee waived their right to any sort of issue. And some of them, it was found that there actually was a lease that was issued, and it had been over 7 years' time, so that the person did have the legal right, the original lessee had the right to transfer at that time. So a lot of those were dealt with in ways that did not involve an actual switch or transfer of application time.
cool, that's kind of what I was thinking happened there, and of course it happened over time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, commissioners, any other questions? This is good, great dialogue, great start,
I get-
start to an end.
Yeah, I guess my one question to the board then is on that, the language of emergency exists. I put that in there as the most strict level of scrutiny, but was gonna ask the board as to how it wanted to consider this null and void listing. Did it want to have it changed to good cause shown, or just in the board's absolute discretion as far as listening to these cases?
I said the latter.
The absolute
To decide,
discretion?
Right, that would be the,
It could be either or,
Okay.
depending on the case.
So that would be absolute discretion then.
you're right.
So we can change the language to that then.
We're gonna remove the emergency.
Right, and so use the same language as the,
Nice.
5.3C, where it says the Board of Commissions may grant such a request in its absolute discretion. So just change the last sentence of 5.8C to that.
Sir, just one thing, if anything here contradicts the act, how would we address that?
I made sure it didn't
Yeah,
contradict the
that's
act,
what
so
I said.
that was the whole thing, is that
That's his
because,
job.
Yeah.
because the original, yeah,
No, but
I'm
and
just
this,
making sure, because we send Attorney Tom a lot of emails, and
yeah.
that's one less email you get from us.
Yeah, that's kind of why this took so long to get out, was because we wanted to make sure that it didn't contradict anything in the act, because the original rules and regs, and some of you know this, some don't, but because they were passed by the legislature, we have limited authority to do any sort of modification to them. It's only when we have something direct, like the last bill that dealt with the lawsuit, that gave us direct authority to modify the rules to comply with the settlement, things like that. So this is kind of sort of a gap-filling measure, and so great care was taken to make sure that none of these rules conflicted with existing rules.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner, so just again, to be clear, there are other steps taken after we decide which option to go with. And then we just need to make a motion to, as what the board decides, with which option to go to, correct?
That's correct.
If the board should decide to go with Attorney Tom's proposal, maybe they can just amend it here, we'll put it on paper, and so we don't have to come back again. We can
Right.
get the ball rolling.
That's what I would
Tackle it
suggest
now.
also.
So amended meaning the part for the emergency?
Yes.
We have to make a motion for that?
So we need two.
Yeah, it would be a motion to
Amend?
adopt the proposed rules and regs, or sorry, well,
Amend it first? then
to
adopt.
amend the proposed rules and regs
So add on
as
that.
to the last sentence of 5.8C, to make it a absolute discretion rather than emergency as the standard,
Right.
and then to move forward with the AAA process.
That would be the second motion, right?
I think you could do it all in one motion.
Just one go?
Yeah. Because we're not at the point of a resolution yet or anything that we need to write down.
So our actions is basically just to kind of amend what we need to, and then the final, is there a final motion to, about our selection of which one to?
No, it's not an either or sort of thing.
It's-
I think you can move forward with these rules and regs and still kind of have the standard operating procedure on hand,
With the,
because that may still come into play
Yes.
depending on how the board rules on some of the null and voids.
Okay,
We'll make sure our SOP is in line with the act and our rules and regs are existing. Because there's some updates that need to be made, like the changes to the qualification, and we'll be working on that next week. Hopefully, we finish it before the first week of November, so we can present it to the board, so they can approve the amendments and the SOP in its entirety.
Yeah, and how it deals with the null and voids would potentially change depending on the adoption of these additional proposed rules.
We will mention in the SOP, we will mention this proposed authority as an exhibit, so we can refer to, so there's not much going back and revising and all that great stuff.
thank you. Just wanted to make sure I clarified that. Okay, Commissioners, any other questions?
I have a question. You said, so there are two separate, it doesn't, I mean, just help me understand, I guess. This first one just looks like the steps we're taking as to the proposed rules and regs. It looks like that's what we're intending to solidify within the current rules and regs, right? So we're changing it to make sure that we are going to be following these amended within the rules and regs. And then the null and void is just how we're going to be tackling it?
They,
So you've been mentioning that they're two separate? I mean, not two separate, but how to tackle the null and void? I'm not understanding
Yeah,
that.
so it was presented as two options per se.
There you go.
But
Options.
we've kind of, as we've discussed it, the proposed additions that we have from Attorney Toff
Right.
is actually what we should be
Clarify.
adopting or adding to the existing.
Right.
Because this is just more of how to handle,
Right,
and then this is where gives the clarity and the different options of how to handle.
right. Okay, so there's no deciding which one, we're not deciding, okay, we're gonna go with
Correct.
option one, that's not
Yeah,
what we're
we
doing.
don't have to do
As we
Okay,
as-
because
as
there's like
we've
two
discussed,
options and I'm
correct,
like,
yeah, yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, as we've discussed, we kind of
Okay, cool, I understand now, Malik. Just want to see,
yeah, as we've been discussing, we kind of like been able to say,
Decipher what.
this is what we should be
right,
Um,
yes, I understand now.
intending to
And then
adopt.
you see like the two options, I'm like, wait, hold on,
Yes.
okay,
Sir,
cool,
I
understood.
mean, if the additional authority should go through, can we retroactively apply this? Or is it just forward?
So it would be just forward, but that's fine because with the termination of the leases, all of these decisions would need to be made again regardless. We want all of the null and voids to be brought before the board so that they can be examined in public and transparently when we make a decision on them.
So this will just address going forward.
Going forward.
Okay. Any other questions?
None, sir, I'm good now.
Okay.
Appreciate you.
So I turn to you guys, commissioners, to
Make a
take some
motion.
action. Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to amend 5.8, I'm sorry, one moment.
5.8C.
There you go, 5.8C. The last line to read, "The Board of Commissioners may grant such a request in its absolute discretion."
Thank you. May you get a second on the
I
motion?
second.
Thank you, Commissioner Redadio. Any objections?
None.
Okay, motion passes to amend 5.8C, the last line, to read, "The Board of Commissioners may grant such a request in its absolute discretion." Okay, thank you. So that makes the edit that we have discussed. And then we need a second motion, correct?
Correct.
To adopt, huh?
To begin the AAA process.
Oh, okay. I make a motion to begin the AAA process for the proposed rules and regs, as well as how would I word it, the null and void?
I would say just for, the null and void is a standard operating procedure, so that would be separate.
Oh, okay.
So you don't need to
So
do
hold
that at this time.
All right, we're not taking action on this one just yet.
We're gonna freeze that because the usage of that would change depending on whether these proposed rules and regs go through or not.
Okay, I understand. Okay, I make a motion to adopt the proposed rules and regs proposed by Attorney Toft.
I second.
And to begin the AAA.
Oh, I'm sorry, and to begin the AAA process.
Okay, so Commissioner Sanchez, could you just restate
Rephrase,
that
okay.
so we're clear?
I make a motion to adopt the proposed rules and regs proposed, from Attorney Toft, and to, I'm sorry,
Begin the AAA.
begin the AAA process.
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Redadio. Commissioner Sanchez, any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, the motion passes to adopt the proposed rules, additions to the rules and regulations and to begin the AAA process. Cool. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, we are in our new business for constituent matters. And we have all three, residential, agricultural, and commercial. So I'm gonna pass it over to Ms. Siding to kick us off, please.
Okay, the lessee is Joseph Anthony Polino. I'm presenting for Jessica. She's out sick today. The facts is application date and time is December 2nd, 1995 at 12:31 p.m. Application number 394. Application type is residential, priority 1. Notice of intent to award is not in file. Lease was dated August 22nd, 2003, signed by Administrative Director Joseph Borja. DLM instrument numbers 827903. Location is lot 6, block 24. track 9210, phase 2, Jigo. Lot size is 2,191 plus square meters. Survey authorization was issued July 17, 2003, approved by Administrative Director Joseph Borja. Survey map was approved in-house, and the complainant issue is for clearing and grading permit authorization, adding building permit authorization. Chronology, June 23rd, 1997, residential interview report, beneficiary designated. June 23rd, 2003, lot showing for lot 6, block 24, track 9210, phase 2 in Jigo. On July 26, 2003, approval of applications for building and clearing permits approved by Administrative Director Joseph Borja. On July 17, 2003, an authorization to initiate survey was also approved by Administrative Director Joseph Borja. August 22nd, 2003, a residential lease was signed by Administrative Director Joseph Borja. And on January 12, 2011, a request to change beneficiary was approved by Acting Director Monty Lockness. On January 17, 2011, request to change beneficiary was approved by Acting Administrative Director Monty Lockness. On June 6, 2011, an unrecorded special power of attorney was turned in. June 24, 2020, request to change beneficiary was approved by Administrative Director Jack Hattick III. On July 1st, 2020, approval of application for water service was approved by Administrative Director Jack Hattick III. On October 30th, 2020, approval of application for power service approved by Administrative Director Jack Hattick III. On October 5th, 2021, request for building permit authorization and proposed plan submitted for review. Findings, property survey, map approved in-house, public law 31-170, and act to exempt maps of the CHamoru Land Trust lease sites previously approved by the CHamoru Land Trust Commission from the requirements of Article 2 in Chapter 62 of the Guam Code annotated relative to submission and recordation procedures. Boundary survey of lots 1 through 6, block 24, track 9210, and lots 5 and 6, block 30, track 9210, signed by Administrative Director Joseph Borja on July 23, 2003. And Robert R. Ventura was a private license surveyor number 54, drawing number RRP 03-10JP. The lot size is for 2,191 plus or minus square meters because of the northern central water recharge area as determined by the Guam Environmental Protection Agency. The residential lease was recorded under DLF instrument number 827903. Summary. Joseph Anthony Polino is a December 2nd, 1995 applicant who was issued a residential lease for lot 6, block 24, track 9210, phase 2 in Jigo, containing an area of 2,191 plus minus square meters on August 22nd, 2003. The residential lease was signed by Administrative Director Joseph Borja. The request is to approve a clearing and grading permit and building permit authorization for Joseph Anthony Polino for lot 6, block 24, track 9210, phase 2 in Jigo. And that concludes my report.
Cool, thank you, Ms. Ivey.
Thank you, Ms. Ivey.
Okay, commissioners, any
Any
questions?
questions?
Is there, is he just now coming to, is he just now being able to start his process of building? Is that the reason why it's taken this long?
I'm sorry, it's muffled. Let me come over.
Eileen is headed your way,
Thank you.
only because she's having trouble, understanding you. The sound is muffled on our side.
How's it now?
I'm right here.
yet, but how is it now though?
It's good.
Okay, great.
Okay, yes. Commissioner?
So Ms. Eileen, I just have a question, just one question, and his application has been, his lease was awarded on August 22nd, 2003? And what's the reason for it taking this long? Is it, he's just coming across,
Survey.
okay, it was
We
the
just have to-
survey
Yes,
issues?
yes.
Okay, that's it.
And
Any
now,
other questions?
and now we're ready to build.
Yes.
Great, okay, good,
Building plans and everything should be in the file.
Right.
Okay.
right, okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, this map shows the different lot numbers besides the one Mr. Polino has. Was that because,
There are probably other lots included
Yeah.
in the store.
It's block 24, so if you open up the map, there's several lots in the map.
Yeah.
You have, yes, so,
probably that's what took so long, was because of
Survey,
yeah.
other lots?
Surveying, right?
Sometimes our applicants want to, sometimes our lessees, our applicants would wait for the surrounding areas to also join in the same surveyor so that the cost, will minimize the cost for their
They break up.
surveying.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, at least he's ready to start, so.
Okay, is there any other questions?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
Just to, for the sake of asking, so this is a registered lot?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Cows look beautiful though.
Yeah, most of us land agents would not know if it's an unregistered lot because the map will never get recorded.
Yeah,
There you go.
okay,
Okay, just so that you're on that.
awesome.
Is
Okay,
there any other questions?
Amazing. No matter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I guess you gotta talk directly into the microphone like
Let
that.
me ask you one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do these people have to go through EPA for clearance?
Yes, they do.
So if we approve the permit, then
They have to go to the permitting agencies, which would include Department of Public Works, Guam Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Agriculture in case there's endangered species, and then Parks and Recs for any kind of, burial grounds
grounds,
or, yes,
Preservation
artifacts.
office.
Yes, conservation office also.
Right. Oh, wow.
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Arlen.
Let's move it.
okay, commissioners, any other questions?
None, sir.
Okay, turn to you to take action.
Okay, I make a motion to approve Joseph Anthony Paulino's request for clearing and grading permit authorization and building permit authorization on lot 6, block 24, tract 9210, which is phase 2 in Chico.
And I second that motion.
Thank you, commissioners, any objections?
None.
No objections, hearing none, motion passes to approve the clearing and grading permit authorization and building permit authorization for Mr. Joseph Anthony Polino, lot 6, block 24, tract 9210, phase 2 in Geo. Thank you, commissioners. Okay, next up is Ms. Sanu.
Next person that's coming up is Nancy Meager Diaz, and Mr. Lou's gonna do the presentation.
Thanks, Ms. Sanu.
Okay, so Miss Nancy Diaz is already a lessee with us. She's occupying an area on tract 1022. So tract 1022 is our problem child. I'm doing my best to describe this one. So tract 1022 is originally made up of quarter-acre lots. Then the EPA rule came in, excuse me. The acre rule came in, changing the lot size to half an acre. So imagine we had 100 lots, so we should have changed it down to 50. Instead, we kept it at 100. So we have lots on top of lots. So in order for her to actually occupy a lot, we are requesting to relocate her to a lot that has water and power as well as excuse me, a public
relocation. Ms. Diaz has consistently paid for the property taxes on the lot that she's not occupying, nor can she fund. She's paid the land lease fees, and all she's asking is to relocate to a lot that she can finally build on.
Thank you, Mr. Duke. Commissioners, any questions?
Just how many lots are quarter acre?
I'm sorry?
How many of these lots in this area that you mentioned?
I believe there's about, and I could be incorrect on the numbers, but there's about 200, if I'm not mistaken, applicants who receive leases in that area. And I believe there's about, I could be wrong, but I believe there's about 15 that are actually already occupying.
Is Ms. Diaz ready? So if we relocate her, the property we relocate her to will need to be surveyed?
It would need to be surveyed,
Okay.
so it's one of those that before she can, once we get approval for her to relocate, we would issue her a survey authorization. She would have to get the lot surveyed, and then once it is, we will do, as well as pay the last, come up to date, current on the property taxes, and then we will issue her an addendum to allow her to relocate to the lot. And then once she does that, once she gets her survey map done, then she can request for a building plan to be put in place, to be done, and then come before us requesting for authorization to apply for a building permit.
Hey Pierce, can you hear me? I just had a quick question for Pierce. Just to kind of, to Commissioner Bradano's question on lot 1022 or tract 1022. Pierce, what are we looking to, or do you know, what are we looking to do, or what have we started to do in addressing the tract 1022 for the quarter acres?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is, maybe Joey can respond to this question better than I can, but, we were gonna use this as one of the pilot projects to try and bring in sewer and water.
Okay.
So that we can go back to the, quarter acre lots that were first, proposed for this back in the 90s. The intent back then was to bring in water and sewer, which is why it was, cut up to a quarter acre. Right now, I asked Joey if we can hold off on processing any of these maps until we can figure out what's the next move that we're gonna make on this track.
Okay.
The only other thing that we can do for those who have already surveyed, and I believe there are about maybe 5 maps waiting on processing for a half acre. The only other thing we can do is combine the 2 quarter acre lots to make it a half. And as you know, that's gonna offset a lot of the other
the other parcels.
a lot of the other lots that are being processed
Right.
at a quarter acre.
Okay.
So, yeah, maybe Joey, I guess we can
No, I
ask
mean,
Joey about what
no,
the status is on that,
yeah.
on the track.
yeah, that's perfect. I mean, I think, I just want to make sure that was kind of the track that we may have wanted to do, to bring in the sewer and water. So with that said, when we do bring in water and sewer, they can maintain that quarter acre, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. There's already an approved map for it,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, Director?
Now you've been summoned.
Lydia, I have a question. With regards to lot 10122-64-R1, containing an area of a quarter acre.
Right.
So would that be substandard still, being that it's over the northern aquifer?
No,
Or-
because there's a public sewer system right there, so therefore she would qualify, she could move forward. That's actually a really, really good lot. It's on Batula Street, right down from the golf course. It's right there. Power and water is accessible. There's a public
so it's a perfect lot. We did a lot showing for them. They went out and they saw it, they loved it. I got an email that afternoon requesting that they would like to be relocated to that lot.
Thank you for that clarification. I just want to make sure we don't go down that road again.
No, we want to make sure we're not gonna penalize these people and torture them any more than we have to.
Pierce, go ahead.
Not that we torture them, but we don't.
I have a survey being processed, I have a check that's being processed right now, and, the estimate indicates that, a sewer manhole is located about 70 feet from that particular lot that you're just referring to.
Okay,
Thank you,
awesome.
Pierce.
Thanks, Pierce.
You-
Okay, that's all I was just wanting to add some clarification to. Thank you. Commissioner Santos?
None right now. Still looking.
So, I have,
Yes, ma'am.
so we have to cancel the lease that she had earlier on lot 11, block 6.
No, what we would do is we would ask her to sign the decline of municipality award, and then we request for a survey authorization. Once the survey's done, we would do an addendum updating the lot description. So she's just moving, and it'll all be done on paper.
Right on. That's what I was thinking.
Awesome, great. And so then, of course, once we approve, the survey authorization will be released, they do the survey, it gets recorded. Do we need to take action for that addendum?
No,
Oh.
because then we'll do a memo to file, and when we do that, I issue a copy of, I attach with it a copy of the minutes and/or the motion summary saying it's been approved for relocation.
Okay, awesome. And then, of course, all this is conditioned to the payment of all the property taxes to the original lease. And
Yes,
then it begins day 0 or day 1 for the new.
yes.
Okay.
Because when they relocate, we make sure that they're at a zero balance, so they don't go into it with a debt on it.
Great. And then they begin the new property taxes for the new lot.
Right.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ms. Lydia. Commissioners, any other questions?
So the taxes would be refunded to her?
No, she's had a lease for that lot that she's been paying for the property taxes. That was the agreement when she originally signed the leases. She understood that she had to pay property taxes. So when she was asking to relocate, we told her one of the things that she needs to do is she needs to bring it up to current. And so she was doing that. She just hasn't done last year's 2020. But Ms. Uyghur or Ms. Diaz has always been really good about it. The moment she gets it, she makes her payment and she either emails me a copy or she drops it off.
Okay. Cool, understood, thank you. Anything else, commissioners? Okay, I will turn to you if there's no additional questions to take action.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve Nancy Wager Diaz's, to relocate to lot number 101-22-64-R1 in Dedado, containing an area of a quarter acre.
Nice. I second that motion.
Thank you, any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes to approve the relocation for Mrs. Diaz to lot 101-22-64-R1 in Dedado for a quarter acre.
I would like to make another motion for Miss Nancy Wager Diaz to get a survey authorization from us for lot 101-22-64-R1 in Dedado, which is a quarter of an acre.
Thank you.
And I second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Santos, Commissioner Badalio, any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes for the survey authorization for lot 101-22-64-R1 for Ms. Nancy Wager Diaz in Dedado for the quarter acre lot. Okay,
Did we need, I'm sorry, did we need to add that in, that, pending that they clear all the outstanding, or are we just going to? Mr. Lee?
No, I put that in for mine
Okay,
to follow up, to make sure, that's my check and balance that I give myself.
great,
That I need to do that,
Great.
because in reviewing the file, if I see that's on the list, I need to make sure that that's just a way for me to remind
Okay.
myself.
thank you, understood,
Thank you, Mr. Liu.
thank you.
Is those actions are, is that all for this case?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. All
Okay,
right.
Ms. Eileen, next up.
Thank you very much thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
Oh.
Miss-
Oh, there's.
Miss-
sorry,
I'm so sorry,
Ms. Diaz?
Mrs. Diaz.
I just wanted to say thank you for your time.
Okay.
I appreciate your help.
Yes, no worries, and Mrs. Diaz, just for the record, real quick, I'm sorry, we didn't even, I didn't realize that you were online. Could you just state your name for the record?
Nancy Waker Diaz.
Thank you, ma'am. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us.
And we look forward to you moving forward to the next steps of the lot.
right, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Viva.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Right on.
Okay, Ms. Tulu, I think you're up next too?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Okay, so the next case, I believe, is Alan Michael Jose Mateo. And just so you know, Mr. Mateo is one of those on the null and void list.
and let me just real quick, Mr. Mateo, are you still online with us?
It's on mute.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mateo. Just for the record, if you could state your name.
Alan Michael Jose Mateo.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so the original applicant for the application was Linda Marie Mateo, who's deceased. She originally named her brother Roland E. Mateo as her name successor. As you know, Public Law 23-38, Section 5.8 does not allow siblings to be named as successors. So what Mr. Roland did was he requested to transfer his succession rights to he put it as a stepson, but in reviewing the documents, as it is, Alan Michael Jose Mateo is the son of the original applicant's brother. I've attached a copy of her obituary in the report, so as you see, she died without a husband or children. So therefore, when Mr. Mateo received the application rights, it was well within public law.
Okay.
So once he got the application rights, and at the time, we were processing technically by date and time. It was, if you were a December 1995 applicant and you were ready to move forward with the lease issuance, we would process you. So he got processed and received a lease at Jigo in track 9210. So all we are requesting for is that he be named the successor of his late aunt's application rights, and that we ratify the lease that was issued back to him in 2017.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Hu. So I was reading this, and I think as I read through it, it started to become a little bit more clear on the relationship. So I just wanted to make sure. So Mr. Mateo, Mr. Alan Michael Jose Mateo, his father is a sibling of the deceased Miss Linda Marie Meno Mateo.
Yes.
Okay, which so is a nephew now and is eligible to be the successor.
Yes.
Okay. And then just one more for clarity, the original name successor was Mr. Roland Earl Mateo, who's a brother of the deceased.
Yes.
And then back in 2014, Mr. Roland Mateo relinquished his rights.
Yes, or his successor rights to
His successor rights
Alan.
his nephew.
his nephew.
Or he put it in the notarized letter, he put it his stepson. But when when reviewing the documents, I noticed that the original applicant, the sibling, the parents were the same on both. And so that's when I went looking for the obituary to find out what is the connection, and that's how I kind of did the family tree and realized, yes, Mr. Mateo was able to get the lease.
The Mr. Alan Mateo.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to make sure, okay. Okay, no, I just kind of making sure we trace that for us to.
Important.
Yeah. All right, I don't have any additional questions, thank you,
No.
commissioners, and, Director Martin?
May I ask a question, Lydia?
Sure.
Is there a birth certificate for Alan Mateo in the
Yes.
file? Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to make sure.
Yes, so it was when I saw his birth certificate and I saw the father's name on it, and then, because they have to provide the grandfather or the grandparents, so that's when I traced back the connection in all of them.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Miss Lydia, I just have one. Right, is, anybody else looking towards? I know that Ron and Art already named his successor as Alan. Nobody else in the other siblings' children, they,
I don't believe so, because when we asked him and he said no, he wants him to go to his, he called him his stepson. I believe because he probably raised Mr. Allen. You would have to ask Mr. Allen, but either way. So to me, because there was no named successor, we waited for a while, didn't hear from anybody. So therefore, we decided to move forward with it.
okay. That's the only question I have. Would you like to take action on this?
Yeah, I was gonna say, commissioners, any other questions?
No.
Attorney Toff, just real quick before we proceed, anything, that we missed here?
Nothing that I see.
Pretty, we can
Straightforward.
trace it all, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, I will turn to you to take action, please.
I make a motion to name the successor for, or add the beneficiary, or what would we?
Successor to the application, sorry, so just make sure we're clear, right?
Right.
Successor to the, oh, that's another, sorry, before we proceed, Miss Lydia, because there's an existing lease, and I marked this, but I forgot to ask, we still have to take it a step back and have Mr. Alan Mateo the successor for the application rights of his aunt?
Yes,
Okay,
that way, because we want to be able to
go all the way
be able
back.
to document everything that was done for him to get a lease was in accordance to the law.
Okay,
Because when we ratify a lease, my understanding is we want to make sure we're doing it by the book. So if anybody asks any questions, if we were to do an audit, we can explain why it was issued to this person.
Attorney Tom, any issues because of the length of time, or is this just more for?
No,
for
just,
tracking for,
correct.
okay, that, I marked that and I completely forgot to ask, so I apologize. So, okay, Commissioner Thomas.
And so we're good, right? Like, with what the chairman said about the
Yes.
length of time, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I make a motion to approve to name Mr. Alan Michael Jose Mateo as the successor to the application rights of Linda Marie Mateo.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Santos.
One second.
Thank you, Commissioner Berdalio. Any objections?
None.
There are none. Motion passes to approve Mr. Alan Michael Jose Mateo as a successor to the application rights of Ms. Linda Marie Mateo, who is deceased. Thank you, Commissioners. And then,
Do we have the next two?
yes.
Okay. I make a motion to approve to ratify the May 24, 2017 residential lease for tract 9210, block 25, lot 6 in Jigo, containing an area of 1,859 plus square meters issued to Alan Michael Jose Mateo.
I second.
Thank you. Commissioners, any objections?
No.
Hearing none, motion passes to approve, to ratify the May 24, 2017 residential lease for tract 9210, lot 25, lot 6 in Jigo, containing the area of 1859 plus or minus square meters, issued to Mr. Alan Michael Jose Mateo. Thank you, Commissioners.
Yes.
One more.
And then
Done.
next one.
I make a motion to approve to remove Alan Michael Jose Mateo from the null and void listing.
I second.
Thank you, Commissioners. Any objections?
None.
All right, hearing none, the motion passes to remove Mr. Alan Michael Jose Mateo from the null and void listing. Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Ms. Lydia. Ms. Eileen, up next, please.
I'm sorry, we got two more cases and they're both on Lydia. Monica Barza will not be here today.
Okay, Ms. Lydia.
So the next case we have is Miss.
Oh, yes, oh, I'm sorry,
Thank
Mr. Mateo, I apologize, sir. Thank you for your time today. Do you have any questions?
No, I really appreciate your help, thank you.
Okay, awesome, Mr. Mateo, and, Ms. Lydia will be in touch. Take care.
Take care, Mr. Mateo. Thank you for joining us.
You too.
Ms. Lydia, back to you, sorry about that.
It's okay. So the next person is Greta Mesa Duenas. Ms. Duenas is a February 1998 applicant. She's not requesting for lease issuance. Instead, what she's requesting for is to be qualified as an eligible beneficiary for lease issuance. So when her date and time comes up, she does not have to worry about that, and she can move forward with finding a lot to begin her leasing.
Okay,
So she has submitted the supporting documents showing that she is the granddaughter of Jose Pinella Mesa, who had a lot over in Barragata, which we now know as Tizan. It was taken by the naval government on behalf of the U.S. government in civil case number 21-50. And so it was for, I believe, it was for the lot, and so she had submitted all her supporting documents. We have a copy of the civil case, as well as the birth certificates and death certificates connecting her to her father, and to her great-grandfather or grandfather, Jose Pinella Mesa.
great, thank you, Ms. Lydia, and the attachments are very helpful, again, for me, as to kind of learning, how we can trace back, so I really appreciate that, and, yeah, the documentation is great, so I appreciate that.
Very much so.
Yeah.
My grandfather's in the list.
Yeah, I was gonna, yeah, so even, Commissioner Bradley's grandfather's on this list, so that's great. And so, I think this is a great example, again, just real quick, as we continue to come, to work with our constituents and people that come through, question us about, how do we get this eligibility, right? We're expending all our resources, and, again, this just proves the data's there, we just gotta take the extra step to hunt it down, so I appreciate it, this is some good.
Well, actually, just so you know, one of the things we use is the bond listing that we got from Guam Ancestral Lands Commission.
Right,
Miss Greta's grandfather is actually not on the listing.
okay,
She did all the research, her family had did the research for themselves, and when she came in and she met with myself, the director, and Eileen, she presented her documents, and it was from there that I was able to build the case
okay,
for
okay,
her. So
got it,
this is an example of how an applicant can do the research.
as well, but
As
it's
well,
also
so-
us to help.
Yeah, so because if she left it up to us, we wouldn't have been able to find it because he's not on the listing at all.
Okay, understood.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes,
one thing that really helped make Greta's application and her eligibility to prove, I have to give credit to Lydia because it originated from an email with what we were looking for. And so Lydia gave her clear instructions, and she just told us that it kind of clicked. I have these documents, and she went and put it all together and brought it in. So I think that that's a good tool that we can use for some of our applicants
Okay, great,
in qualifying.
thank you.
Very much so. I know.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions?
Attorney Tom, we're on the right track?
Yeah, I don't see any issue.
Okay.
So this will just deem her eligible? That's
Correct,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Does it have to go through that like this to us all the time?
I don't think so, but what I think that this is very beneficial, because this is, you know, one of the earliest instances that we've had to actually go through this process.
Mm.
So I think it's instructive for the board to see what the CHamoru Land Trust needs to do on each case to determine eligibility.
Okay.
So I think it's helpful for us, for these first few, just to get a feel of what it is that the staff needs to do on each of these. And also to make it, I think it's also beneficial to make it a public record
Right.
and show, you know, transparent to the video and everybody looking at the minutes as far as this is what we're doing. Because, well, you know, also the federal government's also looking at our actions as
Mhm.
well
Right.
in each of these matters, especially so soon after the settlement, to make sure that we're doing things properly.
Okay, okay.
So I think it's beneficial that we're doing these first few as an entire commission.
Right, so this would be considered like one of the next in line that we're dealing with, right now, or about to proceed to give a lease to or approve the eligibility? What, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so,
Potentially, I mean, just looking at it, it's an agricultural application type from 1998, so soon-ish, I
Okay,
would say.
cool. Just to deem her eligible, and,
Yeah.
okay, great, great,
Right.
I understand the process.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, so it's just, so that when her time comes,
Right.
she's ready to go.
Okay, good, good. Is it because of the parcel that, or, okay, no,
No, just,
okay, I was like, all right.
yeah, no, I mean.
Great job, team.
Right, yeah, and again,
Right.
to Attorney Top's point, this is kind of what we wanna see
Yeah.
on how to make sure that all the connections are there, yeah.
Beautiful. Right on.
Yeah.
Thank
Also,
you.
members of the board, Attorney Toft is correct. This is to show how we, the commission, will collect the data and present it. Because I think we, as much as possible, want to show the court case and the lineage.
Right.
So this is a good example of how Greta Mesa Duenas qualifies.
Okay, very cool. That's amazing. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so, commissioners, any other questions?
No, sir.
All right, so that's, just from a procedural and just as a, you know, the first few, let's go ahead and make the motion to,
I would make the motion.
okay, thank you, Commissioner.
I want to make a motion to approve that Mrs. Greta Mesa Duenas is eligible to be a beneficiary for a CHamoru Land Trust program as per Public Law 35-112.
Thank you, Commissioner Bedelia. May I
And
have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Santos. Any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes on the approval of eligibility for Mrs. Greta Mesa Duenas as a beneficiary to the Federal Land Trust Program as per Public Law 35112. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Ms. Tabu, for taking us through this journey.
Alright. Great job, team.
Next up, Ms. Eileen.
It will be Doris Sanchez Miyazaki and Mr. Lewis presenting.
Not going anywhere. So, this is, a null and void case. So Miss Doris received her lease from her father. Her father was the original lessee, and then after X amount of time, he requested to transfer the lease over to Doris. An addendum was done, and the lot was transferred over to Miss Doris. It was past the 7 years, therefore, Public Law 23-38, Section 5.8 was fulfilled. And somehow Ms. Miyazaki ended up on the null and void case, so we're requesting to approve her August 21st, 2012 agricultural lease containing 1 acre or 4,043 square meters be issued to Doris Sanchez Miyazaki, or it should have been an addendum. And then, so it is a null and void case, but everything that she did to obtain the lease was done correctly within the law.
I did have one question, Commissioners, if I may begin, okay. So there was some cease and desist in 2017. That's all clear, that's all been resolved?
Yes.
Okay. Have you recently been out to the property?
I haven't been out there in a while. Johanna and Eileen, I believe, did conduct the last site inspection when they were originally creating the null and void list. I believe the lot was overgrown, but where the lot is located, there is no real access to it, nor is there water or power to the lot.
Commissioners, any questions?
Okay, one more time, Ms. Lydia. Why was this in the null and void case?
I don't know how it ended up on the null and void list, but it did, so we're just requesting that we approve we're requesting to ratify the lease, therefore, then we're requesting to remove it from the null and void listing. So that would decrease our numbers on cases waiting to be adjudicated, because everything that was done to issue the lease was done correctly.
Okay, that's good enough, thank you.
I want to make a motion.
Actually, may I ask a question? Okay, so Ms. Tulu, sorry, let me talk to you. So if there hasn't been any activity on the lot, and we know our timelines, does Ms. Miyazaki intend to start farming or anything of that nature?
I've actually tried to get a hold of Ms. Miyazaki, and the numbers are not working.
Okay.
So the next step we have to do is we would have to send a letter out to her, simply because we don't know where she lives, we only know where her agricultural lot is.
Okay.
And because she's not occupying it, nor is she farming it, we can't reasonably leave a note for her requesting that she call us back.
Right.
So,
wanted to just kind of ask that, if there's, so thank you for sharing that we've not been in contact.
What would our,
The last time I believe the agency was, interacted with her was when they actually showed the boundary points for her on the lot.
Which was when?
Roughly 2018 or 2017? 2017.
Yes.
Commissioner Santos, you have the mic?
yeah, what would be the next steps then if that's the case where we're not able to reach her? I mean, we're just gonna get off the null and void, how, I mean, where does that leave the property? This is still a lease, correct?
Yeah, it's a functional lease. The problem is because it was placed on the null and void list, it wasn't part of the number of leases that were ratified by the board back a couple years ago.
Right.
So we're just asking the board to ratify it now because it was, for whatever reason, mistakenly placed on the null and void list.
So let me, I guess, redirect and, or no, rephrase that question. Knowing that there is no activity on it and it's overgrown, what do we do now? Right?
Well, we still
Because
ratify.
we come across that where we know now.
Right.
Right.
I would still recommend we ratify the lease and then, like Ms. Toulouse said, we contact her by mail because we don't have an active
Okay.
phone number.
Okay.
But, then we begin the process of, the same thing we do when we see that other parcels of land are not being utilized.
Right.
So,
Because in agriculture, that's what the whole.
Right, the whole
being,
point.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, as long as we're on it and.
Okay,
enforce
so
it.
let's, so Ms. Salu, we'll again, if the board takes action to clean this up, let's kind of do the next steps to get in contact with Ms. Miyazaki. And then, maybe report back if by next meeting, if we've been successful to contact her.
Okay.
Because I mean, that's kind of why I asked, have we been in contact, or is there any, when was the last time we visited? Because if it's just idle land, right, then, if it's an agricultural zone, then, we want to make sure that we're utilizing, right, as we hear time and time again, if the property needs, we need to make sure that they're utilizing the property as it was intended.
As well as we need to make sure that they are clear about the conditions on getting the
Yes.
lease, that there are things that they need to do. They
Correct.
need to pay the land lease fee, they need to pay their property taxes.
Right.
So we need to make sure they understand, and also if they need agriculture training, we can get them involved in that. But one of the things we need to do is we first need to get a hold of her.
Yeah.
And we're at that point where we just can't, the numbers are not working.
All right, so last known address, let's send out a letter. I guess, the commission decides to take action, we'll clean it up just so
Right.
that we
Have that.
are going to start moving to the next steps.
Yes.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions?
No,
Okay, may,
we postpone.
you want to go ahead and table it?
Yeah, postpone it to the next meeting, and she'll give a report.
Okay, so you recommend, okay, so just to be clear, Commissioner Badani wants to just table this for now and give Ms. Lydia some time to get in contact with Ms. Miyazaki?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you want to,
Go from there.
we'll go from there?
We'll see what's her intentions to, Miss.
So just to be clear too, that, our action is just to kind of clean up the list, but you're recommending to, let's just table this
Yeah.
and to get in contact with Ms. Misaki just to see what, intentions, if she has any intentions on, what her intentions are on the property, correct? Okay. Attorney Top, any?
I think that, I understand the why as to why you would want that. Whether or not she's gonna do anything with the property though, the ratification of the lease doesn't really change the process of what we would do as far as if she's using the property or not. So this helps us as far as cleaning up the null and void list and, getting it to the point where we can do something about the lease. So I would recommend just ratification now, and then if she's not using the property, we can begin the steps of removal, or, start,
Start the process. of
start the process,
communicating.
right, communication first, and then, yeah. But, you know, if we wait on it, you know, regardless of what happens, it's still an existing lease. So the same steps would need to be taken, it would just delay the steps.
Yeah, and everything, and the reason why I got on the list, we're not sure.
Right.
But in review, in Ms. Talu's review, everything is proper
Yes.
and within the confines
As
of
far as the lease
as how
itself,
it,
yeah.
as how it was issued. Okay, I feel comfortable with that, so, what do you think, Commissioner Burdell?
No, I would like to ask her if there's a successor on
Yes, she did name her daughter.
her daughter. Do
Yes.
you maybe contact her daughter too?
I
Just to
actually-
find out where she's.
No, I actually did try all the numbers in the file, and none of them are working, so the next step is to send a letter out.
So Commissioners, are we comfortable, just to Attorney Topp's point, to take action to just ratify in part of our cleanup, and then we'll make sure to keep this on the list for Ms. Talu to keep us posted as one of the examples of, you know, making sure we can get in contact and, you know, that they're using the land as is intended. Any objections there, Commissioner Burdell? Or would you like to still,
Table.
keep it on a table basis?
Would you like to table it?
I can see where Attorney Tough is saying, just get her off the list.
So we'll just,
If we take her off the list, the lease agreement, we can do
no, no,
when
no,
we
just-
find her.
Yes.
Okay.
You guys comfortable with that?
Yeah,
Take
I'm
action?
comfortable.
Okay,
Just
so,
remove it from the null and void list, right?
Right.
yeah, just to
Right.
remove from
Yeah.
the list, yeah.
Just so we can get those numbers down and already, because what was the reason why what was the reason for her being in that list, right? So,
Yeah.
right,
We
Okay.
couldn't pinpoint exactly how,
Right.
but
It was our fault.
everything's legit. right?
everything has come up to be proper within how the lease was issued.
Right, okay.
All right,
Kung
you guys are
wala
comfortable?
Sana, wala ko na motion.
Go ahead, because I lost
You
my
did the last
day.
one? You did the last one? Okay, we're taking turns here. I'd like to make a motion to remove Ms. Doris Sanchez Miyazaki from the null and void list.
I second.
Okay, any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes to move, Ms. Doris Sanchez Misaki from the null and void list. Okay, and we don't want to take action on to ratify the lease?
That's
May I
right.
interject something?
Sure.
Okay, my concern is if we get a hold of her named successor and we find out, as it turns out, Ms. Miyazaki has passed away, it will make it a little bit more difficult for us to do the transfer of lease over to her named successor. So, like Mr. Toff is suggesting, if we can ratify the lease, then when we do get a hold of her, or if she's passed her daughter, then we can move forward in what her daughter needs to do to actually take over the lease. That she would need to pay the land lease fees. She would need to pay the property taxes. She would need to take a training course. The lot will need to be in compliance. We need to do all those things, but we can't really do that if the lease is not ratified. So.
We want a clean slate, in essence.
We want a clean slate, because we don't want to go to her and say, oh, by the way, you also still need to go to the board, because the lease has never been approved.
Commissioners, what do you think?
Okay, we have no choice. I move that we approve to ratify the August 21st, 2002 agricultural lease for tract 10125, block 23, lot 8, new, in Dedido, containing an area of 4,046 square meters to Doris Sanchez Miyazaki.
Thank you, Commissioner Redalia. May I get a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Santos. Any objections?
None.
None.
Okay, no objections. Motion passes to approve to ratify the August 2002 agricultural lease for tract 10125, block 23, lot 8, new in Dededo containing the area of 4,046 square meters to Ms. Doris Sanchez Misaki. Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
Cheers.
Okay, and last one, Ms. Tulu?
That's it.
Oh, that's
I'm
it.
done.
Okay. Next up, Ms. Eileen?
That's it with the concession matters, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Eileen, real quick, I do have a Baza that was in our packet.
She's not gonna be.
She's not gonna be, we're not gonna address that today?
Monica Baza will not be presented today.
Okay, all right, thank you. You did mention that. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. We will now move to the new business for the commercial. And up before us is the GTA commercial lease for the submerged lands. And then the Guam International Country Club. So before we go to that next item, we will take a quick break. The time is 2:48. And let's take a 15-minute recess, 3:03. Thank you.
The power's going off at 3.
What? No,
Why
you're
did
just.
it check?
Break.
just waiting on T to
Yeah,
dig in.
yeah.
You good?
Okay.
So, Uncle Dan, or GT is not here?
Is GTA?
No.
They were here. They were here at 10 and at 1, but.
Why 10?
He left?
Are you so excited? What?
Tell him to get on Zoom. Tell him to get on Zoom.
See, he's not here to sign it today, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not.
It's all right. We'll just send it back. I think I'm comfortable with it, so.
Yeah.
Okay, but-
Okay, back on. Okay. Okay, good afternoon. It's 3:08 and we will resume after break from 2:49. Thank you very much, Commissioners and Attorney Toth. Joey, let's move to the next item on the agenda for the commercial leases.
Today we present the final draft of the proposed commercial license for submerged property with the Guam Telephone Authority, also known as Teleguam. We had discussions, the final draft has gone back and forth with GTA. Attorney Top has reviewed it after GTA had made their revisions or edits, and he has approved the proposed commercial or the draft commercial submerged license with GTA. Now today we present it to the board for their approval, so we can move forward and execute, fully commence the commercial license for submerged property with GTA.
Cool. Thank you, Joey. Commissioners, I will yield to you for questions.
Joey, the
Yes,
lease
ma'am.
says it's 100,000 per cable as they lay it down.
Yes, ma'am, as soon as it's
100,000.
operational.
After that, do you get a monthly payment?
There's an annual payment of 100,000 per cable.
Okay.
And after 5 years, I believe there's a rent escalation.
A what?
A rent escalation,
Okay.
which is 2%
Per, every year,
per cable, every 5 years.
every 5 years. So say 5 and then 10 will be, 2 over that, 1 prior to the 5.
Commissioner,
Let's see if
sorry,
that
Director
escalation.
Camacho.
And to be specific, this is for the Alupang reflat, the property in Timony.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Sir, if I may, just to correct myself, in the commercial license, it reads, the annual fees for each cable system shall be adjusted annually on the anniversary of the system operation date of each cable and for the remainder of the term. All recurring fees shall be adjusted and increased annually at a fixed rate of 2% per annum.
Got it. So not the 5 years,
Not
it's
the 5
every year.
Per annum, 2%.
And then, and of course, right, the system operation date. So the lease says that the licensee shall notify the licensor within 30 days after the establishment of the system operation date of each of the 6 cables authorized through this agreement. So, what is our mechanism to make sure that we are, we keep in contact with the licensee, as they make progress, right? Because I know that they're very excited to either upgrade or replace existing, but also to bring new land and new ones. Have we determined what's our process to make sure that we're,
We will follow with them monthly. We can also reach out to the respective regulatory agencies for permitting. That's another option.
because that's the trigger, that all those permittings have to be approved before they even begin work, correct?
Yes, and also, just for clarification, the system operation date is determined when cable is fully installed, the associated system-wide testing is completed, and the cable is approved to carry commercial traffic. There's also a mechanism, verbiage in there that we should be notified 30 days after the establishment of the system operation date of each cable. So they also have the responsibility to inform us.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I think that's it for me. And I'll just yield to our commissioners if you have any questions. Attorney Top, anything else? I mean, after your review, we're pretty good with this, correct?
Correct, yeah, this is pretty much in line with the bill that was, or the public law that was passed. So.
Okay.
We're all set.
Yeah, this is it, all in line with the bill, right? I mean, I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
okay, great. Okay. What do we,
Yeah, so we
Just
just need
approve
to
it.
take action.
Approve it.
If we, as a commission, accept it, then
accept?
we
Forward it to the
award, yeah.
to the legislature. I
Award it to
forgot,
GTA?
I forgot to ask, I didn't really come across the, 25 years.
Mhm.
It's a 25 years.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm not with that.
I move to accept approve the lease agreement for submerged land in the Lipan between Teleguam Holdings LLC, doing business as GTA, and CHamoru Land Trust Commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Vergallo. May I get a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Santos. Any objections?
Yeah.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes to approve the submerged land lease between Teleguam Holdings LLC, doing business as GTA, and the CHamoru Land Trust Commission. Thank you so much, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Joey?
We will send the email to Mr. Gaginko informing him of the board's decision, and we'll schedule a lease signing date.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. Okay, next up, sir.
Next is the Guam International Country Club. We ask that this be tabled until the November board meeting.
Okay, Commissioners, any objection to tabling?
No.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and table the second item on the commercial constituent matters to our November meeting. Okay, Joey, we'll move to the financial reports.
There's a number.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, so sorry, Commissioners. As part of new business, there's a second item, which is the resolution for us to consider and pass, number 2021-12, on non-litigation and land registration matters. So that's in your packet as well. So what it is this is just for us to take the step to for this resolution, if we choose, which I think it'll be good for us to choose to put this into, this is part of the budget bill. So I'm gonna have Joey kind of walk us through this a little bit more.
So the budget bill for FY 2022 included language under the Office of Attorney General section that the CHamoru Land Trust may be represented by the OAG's office without any cost in non-litigation and land registration matters although we must avail this free services through a resolution. So we created resolution 2021-012 titled non-litigation and non-registration matters. Ms. Camacho had met with the Deputy Attorney General Shannon Taitano, and she had mentioned that there will be no negative effect to any representation at our board meetings or for any legal advice regarding non-litigation and non-registration matters. So presented to you today in your packet is resolution 2021-012. If the board should choose to avail the language in Public Law 36-54.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Does this have to be every year that we make a renewal, or what is?
I think what shows up in the budget bill is what will determine. So we're just.
Yeah, this would just be
following-
for fiscal year 2022.
Right.
So if it's not in the budget bill for fiscal year 2023, then we wouldn't have the opportunity to avail of this.
We wouldn't need.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just depends if it makes it into each year's budget bill. Joey?
So if I may, we just have to make one correction in the resolution. Instead of, it reads October 21st, 2022, but it should be 2021. The second paragraph.
So we can make that, if the commission chooses to adopt this, we just need to
make the correction.
make the correction.
I have no issue.
All right, so if you so choose to take action, we need a motion to accept the resolution with the one amendment on the date.
The date.
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to approve, adopt. Would it be adopt, right?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, I would make a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-012, non-litigation and land registration matters, with the amendment of the date from October 21st, 2022 to October 21st, 2021.
Thank you, Commissioner Santos. May I get a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Berdalio. Any objections?
None.
No objections. The motion passes to adopt resolution number 2021-012 on non-litigation and non-registration matters with the amendment on the date on the second paragraph, October 21, 2022 to October 21, 2021. Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Todd.
Mr. Ha, thank you.
Okay, Joey?
The next item we will be presenting to the board is the revenue collection report for September, year-end September 2021. For the operations fund, during the month of September, CLTC collected $34,143.44, bringing it to a cumulative total for the entire fiscal year of $794,150.19. For the CLTC Survey and Infrastructure Fund, for the month of September, $458.35 was collected, bringing the cumulative total for the entire fiscal year to $22,178.37. For CLTC's Loan Guarantee Fund, for the month of September, we collected $2,776.32.
Hold it,
Second page, Sam.
second.
Yeah, you have two, yeah. At,
One more
third
page.
page.
For the month of September.
I have August.
Yeah, I also have August.
Yeah. The next one.
I don't know if I have a next one.
Unless it's this one.
Is there anything buried in? Okay, there it is.
After that one.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, what happened to August?
End of the fiscal year, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For the month of September, CLTC's loan guarantee fund collected $2,776.32, bringing the cumulative total for the entire fiscal year to $161,496.98. The total for all three funds, we've collected $977,825.54. Also included in your packet is our 10-year revenue projection analysis. The reason why we included this is because of our concern of the funding for our operations fund. For 2022, you'll see that we're anticipated to collect, and this is based on all cash receipts of what is owed due to our existing licenses, $842,628.41. The subsequent year, following year, we will collect $790,277.40. So there's a steady decline and then a little increase due to the rent escalation, although the amounts that are projected to be collected is not sufficient to what we spend annually. So there's a concern of we will be operating or continue to operate at a deficit. We won't be collecting enough money to match our expenditures for the year. So that the shortfall will be supplemented from our money in the bank account, which we only have about $2 million at the end of FY 2021. So if we keep tracking spending over what we collect, we project in about 4 or 5 years we will not have any more money in the bank. So it's just for informational purposes that we provided our projection, our 10-year projection, because it's something we would need to address.
I think too, Joey, definitely this is something good to know that we keep keep the pulse on. One thing is as we start looking for other ways to fund some of our expenses, right? So we just approved the UTA lease. Granted, we don't know when those the cables are actually operational, but we have something to look forward to. I know they're very excited to start landing the cables. I think secondly, which we'll get into in the agency report, the strategic plan, right? And then our goal to expand or increase leases or start increasing those leases, which in turn gives us revenue. But to that point, right, this is very crucial for the board to be to understand where we're at projected, right? But also our responsibility to fill in that gap in that sense, right? To work together to fill that gap. But from a financial background and kind of what I've done is just, yes, we know what we anticipate, but what is it that we're going to do, right? As our responsibility and being a part of this board and being a part of the solution, and looking at everything we have, I think there's lots of opportunities to be able to fill that gap, right? So this is always good to look at what the realities could be, but it's also good for us to, as a commission, as an agency, where are we going to be able to close that gap, right? So, and we're lucky this fiscal year, right, that we've been appropriated some additional funds to set up our team, to set up our staff, to be able to continue to increase the number of leases we issue, but also where are the areas that we could further expand from a commercial perspective, things that are being renewed, some of the issues that we still have with the raceway, right, and closings. Again, it's our responsibility to close some of those gaps, and if we know where those gaps are, we're going to have to start addressing it, right? So just wanted to throw that out there, but definitely appreciate where we stand.
Sir, if I may also, our report also includes the survey and infrastructure fund. And this fund is primarily for the surveying, the installation of utilities, land registration. For 2022, we are only projecting to collect $7,791.67. And then there's a decline in the following year. Just to touch on the commercial licenses that we have mentioned, all commercial licenses executed after October 2015, all revenues will be deposited into the SID fund. Unless otherwise there's an amendment or there's something that would allow for a split with the operations fund.
Okay,
What is the SID fund?
So Survey Infrastructure and Development Fund. That fund is dedicated or was created for the expenditures of surveying, installation of infrastructure, land registration. The reason why we created this projection and we monitor it is because our financial solvency is at the top of our list, at least from the administration side. We want to continue to be financially independent, not putting any additional liability on the general fund. So that's why we included it into the package. Just
no, understood. I think it's good to keep a pulse on it, right? So, okay.
At some point in time too, we'll look at maybe solutions to this, because I do believe that there are funding sources that we can look into. So, and not to look into the general fund, still so that we're independent.
Cool. No, I mean, these are the kind of things that it'll help us again to, as we're gonna go to the strategic plan, right? It's just to help us say, at what point do we need to start pivoting, right? And I think just setting up our foundation, getting, all the cleanup that the team has been doing and being successful in that will help us to start moving in that direction for revenue collection, right? So, yeah, it's just, again, it's good stuff to keep an eye on, don't worry. Okay, commissioners, any questions on that?
Yeah, what is our annual income?
For 2022, for the operations fund.
No, just in total, or whatever,
For all three funds.
yeah.
For 2021, for 2021, we have an annual income of 940,000. That's all. Sorry. We have an annual income year end September 2021, $977,825.54.
And your expense?
I don't have that number with me, although this total is a committed total of three funds.
Yeah,
But just the operations fund, which what we're allowed to
Right.
expend for day-to-day,
yeah.
we've collected $794,150.19. Our expenditures exceed this amount.
Of what?
I wanna say about 60,000 maybe, roughly. But we've been operating at a deficit for the last 4 years in relation to just what we make in the operations fund.
What's your normal deficit a year?
I wanna say it's between 50 and 60. Could be greater.
Or that it'll be, we will.
2026, depending on our expenditures. But rest assured that we are frugal with our expenditures. We don't need it, we won't procure it.
No pay raises?
Only our increments that are due.
More grants, Joey.
That'll be in the agency update.
Okay, anything else, commissioners, on the financials?
No.
Okay, and just to kind of wrap it up, just from that perspective, right, so this is the beginning of our the budget, right, the new fiscal year, and I know that Joey and Angie has been working diligently for some of our recruiting efforts and things like that, so, more to come on that with updates, right?
Yes, sir.
So we won't get the 600,000 up front
No,
until the cables are laid.
until the system operational date
operational,
or
yeah.
something, yeah.
And
And that's
did
per
you ask
cable.
how long
That's
would it
for
take?
600,000.
It's per,
That's
well,
600,000.
one cable is
So
100,000.
Yeah,
Times
there's
25 years.
6,
So when they drop the first cable, then we receive 100,000 per year. When they drop the second cable, we'll receive
The
100
question
per
is,
cable. Yeah,
how-
so we have
how
to wait.
long would it take for them from wherever that cable is to cross the Pacific?
No, that is a very good question. I think they're,
Ask Van Dan.
We'll ask to expedite.
No, I'm just curious, because then we know, at least we know whether you're gonna,
But
Go-
these funds also go toward the
survey
survey infrastructure.
and development.
So we can't use it for operations.
and who put that law into it?
That's part of,
That was part of the law,
that's
the
part
bill
of our
that was
challenge.
passed.
When the SID fund was created, it was created for the specific purposes of land registration, surveying, and the installation of infrastructure. That was created through public law, and in that public law, all commercial leases or licenses executed after October 2015, all revenues will be deposited to that fund.
looking ahead, we're looking ahead.
Commissioners, we have a lot of opportunity
Yes, yes.
ahead of us. Like I mentioned in yesterday was our Tuesday, that there's a lot of work ahead of us. And I think that we continue to fix our foundation and start exploring where can we start expanding. So we're definitely on the right track. There's a lot of work ahead of us, but don't worry, Commissioner Berdalia, we'll check with GT when they're gonna land the first cable.
I think the first thing we're gonna do is sell the land.
No.
They cannot send the agreement.
Just joking.
Just-
Okay, all right, any other financial questions? All right, Joey, let's move into, or Angie, let's move into the agency's report.
So I'd like to ask for Joey's assistance in presenting our strategic plan, as you had a critical role in developing it.
Yes, for sure. All right, so Commissioners and Attorney Toft, we have our 4-year strategic plan that was developed by Joey and team, and along with the help and support and input of Angie. And I mean, it just kind of reviewing the first few drafts and kind of helping and getting my input as well on and getting it ready for you guys to review. It really gives us a good sense of the roadmap, right? You kind of see that same verbiage along the way. But again, it was a huge effort in really trying to put everything that we've been tasked and challenged with, and really saying, hey, here's what we tackle first, here's what we tackle second, here's what we tackle in tandem. So definitely kudos to Joey and team, Angie, for the support in developing this. My goal is for us to, at least approve it, and with any small changes or corrections that we may discuss here. And then, we want to definitely get it out to the team and making sure that our team is fully supportive of this strategic plan, because they're going to play a critical role in order for us to achieve these their specific milestones and et cetera. So I'm going to just turn it over to the team just to kind of present it. But it took a lot of work, I know, but also it's something that as we've met over the past year, like this month makes me my full year on the commission. So it's been a journey, right? But it's also been a very exciting one to be a part of it all. So it's been a long time coming. So thank you guys for your help. So Joey, I pass the baton to you.
In summary, as we were developing this strategic plan, we considered past actions, whether it's positive or negative, identifying what we did is we're missing. Our strategic plan focuses on 3 areas. Our first strategic goal is improving our way of conducting business. This process entails the reorganizing the processes, identifying and addressing our advanced informational technology. Our second strategic goal is improving stewardship. In the past, we've been criticized about many things, but this strategic plan includes the necessary steps or concerns that we need to address. Our first and improving stewardship includes improving the integrity of the programs, improving accountability and performance. Our third and last goal, it's not the least nor the most, but is creating clean, safe, and thriving neighborhoods. A lot of our leased properties don't have the necessary infrastructure to develop homes. They don't have access. Although within the strategic goal, there are strategic objectives. And the first objective is registering property. In our act, we're not allowed to lease unregistered property. The second strategic objective is land survey. Properties need to be surveyed, or survey needs to be completed in order for the utilities to install any type of connection. The third strategic objective is infrastructure. This is something that all our lessees have shouldered the cost or the expenses for. But nonetheless, it's in our strategic plan and it will be addressed. So in summary, that's our strategic plan. It focuses, like I mentioned, on 3 goals, which is improving our way of conducting business, improving stewardship, and creating clean, safe, thriving neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Andy, you want to add some to that? I know you helped, definitely helped on this one.
So this addresses some of the tasks that I've been handed over, and I'm confident that this is going to guide the CHamoru Land Trust in achieving a lot of the goals that were set to us. As far as it's specific to the point where we want to be transparent. We will procure our website. We will stand that up in the near future. We want to digitize, so there'll be some efficient together with our sister agencies on digitizing and access to data. Also, so I'm very proud of the product that we bring before you, and I think that it will give the roadmap again for our employees, but also something for the public to gauge us on.
Yeah, 100%. And the key thing here with strategic plans is that it's fluid, right? There's going to be certain instances outside environmental factors that is going to affect, right? So we have to be able to pivot. We're going to have to be able to make changes, right? And making sure that the changes that we make is still in alignment, right? Because even if those environmental factors or anything outside of our control will play a part in this, right? And we're going to have to be able to be fluid and pivot whenever those changes occur. The other thing is that having a plan allows us to put SMART goals, right? Things that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, etc., right? And having the team, right, the staff, to be able to say, hey, these are some of the things that I have to be able to accomplish, and is it measurable, right? And everything should be coming out of here, right? We know that we have a lot of cleanup, but part of the cleanup is here, right? And we have to create those foundations and create the check boxes in that sense, right? But it's tangible, right? Some is and And it could be lofty, but it's always good to have something to strive for, right? A goal to attain. So, yeah, again, I'm going through it. I'm pretty happy with the details, right? And it's always the devil's in the details, right? So, the key thing as well, right? And I know the team, the staff can hear us, is that we all have to be a part of it, right? Because we won't be successful if we don't collaborate and really put the effort. And, right, one of the biggest things and the challenges that we've always said was we don't have enough staff, but it's the staff in the right spots, right? And creating, the big thing that we always hear, and the one thing I'm an advocate for, is compliance, right? Making sure that when we do issue these leases, right, it's obviously followed to a T within the law, but then what happens after, right? Are they utilizing the land? We need to make sure we have a team that can go out there to do those inspections and site visits, surprise site visits, right? 1 or 2 day. And we hear in the media that, oh, it's CHamoru Land Trust property and it's just trashed, right? So how can we all be a part of the solution, right? And yes, right, there's responsibility, I think, goes both ways. But if we are the leaseholder, right, and our lessees are out there, we got to make sure that we also do our part from a compliance perspective. So it's really covered, and I'm actually really excited because it's a huge opportunity for us to, again, lay this foundation, and we have a roadmap for the next 4 years. So good job, guys. Appreciate it. Commissioners, any questions? I'll stop talking now.
No worries.
Okay. All right. If so, Angie and Joey, what do we want? So we just want the commissioners or the board to kind of approve, subject to any.
They can adopt it.
Adopt it, yeah. I think commissioners, the key thing here is when we adopt this, right? We have to be very clear and comfortable that it's fluid, right? So we have to be stay close to it. If we're not, Joey and team has specific timelines, things that you can measure that and reporting back to us, so that if something is lagging, right, we know that it's lagging and we're aware and say, oh, is it going to take another 3 months to remediate? Is it going to take 4 months to remediate? But at least we're aware, right, and we have something tangible to refer back to. So just one caveat and one thing that everyone needs to understand is, yes, it's a strategic plan that we're going to adopt, but it's also something that we know is pretty fluid in that sense, because of things can change, new laws can come about, right, et cetera, et cetera. So
Change
yeah,
drastic.
yes, indeed, and this will help us. This will help us create that foundation for those changes that we need. Okay.
I dig it.
Any questions?
Well, thanks for
Yeah, definitely.
Your-
So,
hard work.
all right, if you guys are ready to take action to adopt it, I turn it to you guys. Unless if you want to take extra time to get through it,
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Give us a month.
Okay.
I'll ask questions.
All right. Sounds good. So what we'll do is we'll give the commissioners a little bit more time, and then we'll come back in November. In the meantime, in between now and the next commission meeting, if you have any questions, feel free to email them to Angie and Joey, and have that active dialogue.
I like the plan. I really like, I see the dates as very attainable and you know what I mean? So if there's a few in there by the end of the month, this month, that are, so I have no questions, I have no doubt that the team can achieve all of that, that we can achieve all of this, so, I mean, we will still like to see it, Senna? I mean, I've seen it, so. Yeah.
I only
I'm not,
have, because most of the CHamoru Land Trust it's $1 a year
Okay,
that you pay.
okay,
And I think you have to think of a way of making more money.
okay.
And that would be, touch the commercial side of the, you know, where we can use the land for lease, for
Mhm.
commercial use.
Okay.
And that can help us bring more money into the mission.
Okay. I have no, I could wait till, we could wait till November, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. So I know there are some timeline in there, but Joey, you know, continue moving forward.
Right.
And then, next meeting, barring any, major changes or any additional questions from the commissioners, then we can move to adopt.
Okay.
Okay? Anything else? No? Okay, sounds good. Next up on the agenda, sorry, any other updates from the agency?
Oh, yes, so, this may bring you some comfort, to know that, actually, a lot of the things that we've done, in the past month, bring us in alignment with our strategic plan. Joey and I met with, USDA and BSP, Bureau of Planning and Statistics, regarding opportunities for infrastructure grants and low-interest rate loans. So this will provide infrastructure to tracts of land. We've already looked into one in particular, which is tract 1022. We have, GWA submitted a cost estimate, and it's quite daunting, but we are committed to work with these two agencies to find assistance to not burden the CHamoru Land Trust. Cost for water and sewer infrastructure came up to $50 million plus. But again, this brings us a step ahead with the grant opportunities that we will pursue.
At least we have a price tag.
Right, and that's for tract 1, 2.
1022 that we were just talking about
We were
earlier,
just
right?
talking
1, 2,
about,
2, right, right.
yeah,
What's the size of
the
the
tract.
lot or the tract?
This,
I believe initially, tract 1022 was supposed to be a land for the landless subdivision. It was surveyed, I believe, at about 500 square meters per lot. But it didn't happen like that, so it was transferred to the commission. So we awarded 301 leases within that tract. If there's no resolution or no installation of infrastructure, we're gonna have to relocate about 200 lessees within that tract, because the property is gonna have to measure about half an acre. So initially, it was surveyed at 500 square meters, it's gonna take up 4 lots for one lessee. So we're gonna have to relocate about 200. So if we install power, water, sewer, especially sewer, we can maintain the lot size. But if not, then the lot's unusable. So you're gonna get, if you haven't already, got a lot of requests to either be relocated because the lot is unusable or for whatever the reasons are. So that's why tract 1022 was picked as our pilot project to determine what it's gonna cost. Because if we install sewer, we'll resolve the issue of the lots being unusable.
Okay, at least we have a price tag.
correct,
Does it say in that?
yes. They gave us a very nice,
A detailed
writing.
breakdown.
So this is something that we'll
No, it's just a
share
question
with
of
Europlan.
how big is the land?
The whole tract now?
Yeah,
Pierce, do you have the size of 1022 total? Just the total size, so 390 times the
That's
quarter,
quarter.
times the,
Half a quarter, is that right? You can round up about 400 lots per acre.
But what's the total square meters of the
track.
entire tract?
Track,
Yeah,
About 371,000 square meters. I think.
you're looking at about 70 acres, 283,281 square meters.
yeah, okay, 70
70
acres.
acres.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big piece of land, right? So if we
Yeah.
can keep the size, right, we're gonna have to figure out the cost benefit on that, right? If we keep the size, get the sewer and water in there, or is it cheaper? And again, this is just,
Sometimes, you know, from a perspective from private and government,
Mm.
sometimes it's good to get a quotation from private.
from like the,
So
if we did it private, okay,
Right.
got it.
So at some point, we'll continue to look into bringing in the sewer and water and power. That is an option as a matter of fact.
Cause then, you know, like I was saying, the cost benefit of, do we bring in the sewer and water power, or do we make these lots, if it's, you know, the half acres, and then have to deal with relocating or expanding?
I understand
Yeah.
that, yeah. But if you wanna do quarter acres, 1/4 of an acre, you have more lots
Yes, exactly,
and more homes to build.
Right,
correct.
right.
Just at some point, we're gonna have to determine when do we draw the line, because we're holding up a lot of people who want to either get their property surveyed or to progress. We're working as hard as we can and as quickly as we can with other agencies to determine if there is a possibility to obtain the federal funding.
Is there a way we can possibly make it like a breakdown, right? 50 million, you said the total cost for the whole tract, for everything? Or is it just that one
The water.
agency, that one,
Water, sewer,
all of it,
That's
water, sewer,
water,
and
Water,
power?
sewer.
That's water source.
That's just water, sewer.
We
Not
also have to take into account, if we become the developers of the land, there's other requirements that are gonna be needed, like the installation of sidewalks, paved roads, the storm drains. So Ms. Camacho only gave you a quote just for for water and wastewater. That doesn't include power, storm drains, sidewalks, paving the road. if it's
real
required.
subdivision.
Yeah, real subdivision.
Yeah, you break it down in increments.
That could be an option.
It's an option, yeah,
Right.
by phases.
If you build it, they will come.
Sounds good.
So we're exploring all financing opportunities out there. Like Ms. Camacho had mentioned, USDA, VSP, there's other grants other than just the SUDA.
Yeah.
So we're exploring it all.
Thank you, Joey. Ms. Camacho?
And finally, on the agency report, we're preparing GG1s for additional staff that we hope to bring on to assist with all of the tasks that we have before us. So
Sounds good. And you're working closely, of course, with the Department of Administration?
yes,
So just to touch a little bit on that, how quickly, once we determine the head count or the position, how quickly does it get, and just more for information, how quickly is it, when you put out the posting? And I may not know exactly how, on the government side, how it works, but the posting, then the interview, what's the potential time frame for this?
Couple months. What happens is after we prepare the GG1, it's sent to the governor's office for approval. But because we are not under the allotment control of BBMR, it will go directly to DOA.
Okay.
If DOA should have a sufficient listing, then there's no need to announce, depending on how we announce the positions.
Okay.
Whether it's open, government-wide, or departmental. Usually positions are announced, I believe, for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. After that, they're vetted, they send us the certification, we will set up the interviews immediately. After that, then, you know, whoever's selected has to pass a drug test and all that great stuff, and then they can start.
I have one question. Do you have a grant writer?
We're working with ESP, they have the grant writers.
We have the grants. ES and
Bureau of Statistics and Plans.
Nice, okay. They have that poll, right?
Yeah, and they've been really wonderful, helping us with our DUNS number.
Beautiful. Good.
Yeah, and writing the grant as well, so it's a good working relationship.
Partner, government,
that's the key.
yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
partnerships, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, anything else on the agency side? Any other questions for Angie?
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that was it, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, the next item on the agenda was supposed to be the executive session, however, we're gonna table that. And we'll move and finalize, the agenda with, the commissioners' comments. Commissioners? Thank you, Commissioner Bradley,
I
Commissioner
did all of it.
Santos. Commissioner Santos?
None.
None? Okay. All right, I just want to wrap
Good
up
job,
with,
guys.
again, thanking everybody, and looking forward for us to going live with our strategic plan. So commissioners, you can take the time and take the opportunity to review, and send your questions, hopefully prior to our next meeting.
Yeah, that sounds good. Send on his. Okay. Done.
Okay, all right, and may I get a, motion to adjourn?
I move.
Go ahead.
May I get a second?
I second that.
Thank you. Any objections?
None.
All right, motion. All right, adjourn, 4:00 p.m.
Viva,
Thank you.
viva.
We made the street today